Hey, what's up? So we're going to do just, a relatively short one that I can maybe post on Instagram or something. So this is going to be just some astrology focused on the upcoming solar eclipse at 19 degrees, 17 minutes of Gemini. And we want to remember that Venus is the higher esoteric ruler of Gemini. I'm at Multnomah Falls, by the way. I'm kind of higher up on the trail for this short video. And that's the falls right there in the background. It's a pretty beautiful day out here. And the mist actually helps because it's also a very hot day. So the day of the new moon solar eclipse happens on the Mayan day 3 read. And that'll basically, let's see. So that'll happen in the, I'm kind of like, I got different people going by here as they hike on the trail. So that'll happen on 3 read in the 13-day period of Monkey in the Mayan Zolkin calendar. So we'll talk about that 13-day period. And then let's see, some of the aspects is that this solar eclipse is conjunct Mercury, trine Saturn, square Neptune. So we're going to be talking about death, illusion, a little bit of that, because that's what's going on right now. We're basically dealing with the conflict of old illusions versus new illusions, and with that comes information. That's that north node in Gemini, and the synthesizing of old and new information, or simply just new information, while getting rid of disinformation, and then creating a harmony basically between it all. So, you know, we're looking at, we want to talk about I already did a different video for the 13-day period of Knife. So for the 13-day period of Monkey, we're basically talking about turning a poison into a medicine. We're talking about art, creativity, playfulness. The downsides of the 13-day period can be stubbornness, it can be righteousness, it can be posturing, or being highly opinionated. And so we want to focus on the higher aspects of the 13-day period. There's also, let's see, there's at the time of this eclipse, it's conjunct the Fixed Star Bellatrix, which stands or translates as female warrior. So we want to focus on the feminine energy and without fear. And that's in the constellation of Orion, in the left shoulder of Orion. So we want to associate this with the tarot card, the Magician. And, you know, we look at the Magician as the supreme scientist, the experimenter. And it's not just the experimenting with physical things or chemicals or, you know, fluids. It's not just the base alchemy. It's the alchemist, and it's the science of hidden relationships. So we want to think about that a little bit too. So that's basically the experimenter or the artist, which is experimenting with forms, associations, relationships, you know, colors, distance, and all that kind of stuff. It's the manipulation of the seen and the unseen worlds, realities, and dimensions. So it also represents the one. It's basically the card that comes before the Magician is the Fool, but that's represented by the 0. So we want to think about the number 1. It's inclusivity. It has to do with love. It has to do with the center, oneness. You know, it's kind of like we think of the ocean versus the raindrop. We think of the simple term as we are all one. And so we also, in that sense, think of the heart. And so it also brought to mind, you know, the Pink Floyd song, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. Because the sun, in a way, it truly represents love. It represents the second ray of love and wisdom. And, you know, the Magician represents potency. It represents true potential and potency. So right now is a great time to become more conscious of possibilities and potentials. And it's a powerful time because they're really there right now, and it's basically becoming more aware of those different potentials that you can align yourself with, as opposed to being stuck or fixed in old beliefs or ones that have sort of outlived their usefulness. So we're being contrasted right now with old beliefs, that we may have even adopted over the last year and a half. And now, they may be coming to a point where they're not useful anymore, or they outlived their usefulness. Or another way of saying it is to use them beyond this particular point or a particular point would be detrimental in certain ways. It's kind of like, it's the basic idea of habits, routines, addictions. They form after repetition continually again and again and again. And, some habits, routines, and repetitions are positive, like when we learn to drive a car. The more at first you're afraid of it, and you're afraid of, the way it works. And after a while, it becomes something that actually contributes to your well-being. But there are some things, like, the basic idea of addictions. After you do it so much, it actually becomes harmful to you physically. Simply when you first start, maybe it's relieving. It relieves you of tension. But ultimately, at a certain point, it creates more tension than it's worth. So that's kind of an idea to think about. The Magician contains the allness, all in one. It's working with light and shadow, and it's the idea of the juggling of light and shadow. At some point, lightness or light takes a high point, and at some point, shadow takes a high point. So, it's the idea of revelation, revolution, and evolution. And then it's also having to do with consciousness. So it's like if you picture the jugglers juggling, whatever, and those are representative of consciousness or unconsciousness, and the wave. And so it's like when you look at them like that, in that simple way, that's kind of like so there's, like, in quantum physics, there's the approach of looking at it as particle and wave. So you're looking at it as simply particle rising and falling and so forth, compulsion and revolution around something in cycles. But then when you look at it as the wave, it's the rising and falling of consciousness, high points and low points. And that also denotes cycles. So we also want to think about the fact that the Magician is androgynous, and there's an aspect of authority and of commanding, and so it's the commanding of the higher spiritual essences and nature's dimensions. But he also has, he has a wand up in his left hand, which is raised, so that's his connection to the intuitive or to the spiritual. And then in his right hand, he has a small golden pentacle, or a miniature sun, if you will, which is very powerful, but means that he's dealing in the world of daily affairs and the manipulation of the material world, for better or for worse. But let's just, let's advise for the better, for positive, for the benefit of everybody, and not just, I, me, my selfish interests. So the Magician represents the disciple, the initiate, and can represent the sacred trickster. So there can be some trickster energy, and that goes hand in hand with the Mercury retrograde that's happening right now in Gemini. And so there's going to be some elements or themes of trickery and having to review things and rethink things, especially around our values. So there's definitely, aspects of our values, what we value, who we value, how we value it, and, what kind of information we value. And this is right now, as I'm recording this, we're in the 13-day period of knife, so it's, very much so about cutting ties with old belief systems, old ways of thinking, and making yourself open, creating an inward openness so that you actually can be aware of when new possibilities arise, so that you simply don't miss them. Part of the what is it? Part of the deal with the magician and that kind of energy has to deal with gaining a kind of like a perspective that is part of a process of moving through illusion or moving through intensity or conflict and gaining a wider perspective. So we have to move through our illusions that we create out of the information, and we have to review them and process them, because everything in a way is an illusion. We just get used to it. You know, our habits, our routines, our patterns, our way of viewing the world is an illusion. And it's no greater an illusion or less an illusion than anything else. It's just that when we become so fixed that we think our illusion is the only or the best way, that's when we fall under that south node, Sagittarius, of righteousness and, you know, being fixed. So we want to get away from that so that we're more fluid and able to adopt, you know, more inclusive perspectives, as opposed to, you know, just holding a few perspectives. We can hold a lot of perspectives. Just, you know, as there are many cultures, many skin colors, many beliefs, many tastes and inclinations. So the magician works with those, you know, is basically working in the spirit realm and in the material world. A lot of this relates to the upcoming 13-day period of Monkey, which starts on June 8th and it goes to June 21st. What else did I want to say though about that? It's just basically a time to take action, but the 13-day period of Monkey has very much with it's very alchemist kind of, you know, that's why the magician's in there, because it's turning a poison into a medicine. So, you know, what different things can be said about that? I think it was kind of thinking about and covering a lot of ideas that have to do with, you know, transforming something which is toxic or poisonous into something which is healing. And being that we're going through the 13-day period of Knife right now, which leads into the 13-day period of Monkey, you know, we're going to be sharpening our skills right now and narrowing things down, letting things go that are unnecessary. That can sort of create a vacuum, and we, you know, during the 13-day period of Monkey, we can be dealing with, you know, things may arise in our body, in our emotions, our mentality, which kind of have to do with healing. You know, maybe you simply get a rash, or maybe you're suffering mentally from different kinds of things that are being moved through. You know, whether it's your individual, something that you are moving through, or something in relation or relationship to other people. So, hi, how's it going?
I love your necklace.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that is so cool.
Thank you. Good to see you. So, I'm on a trail right here where lots of people are passing back and forth. So, a lot of this 13-day period of Monkey can have to do with the artist and creativity, because I wanted to say, you know, as we go through periods of dealing with suffering or pain or illness or ailments, we are invited to take responsibility, and we are invited to heal ourselves, or at least attempt to. At least try to, and that basically is in a sense becoming into our own authority. It invites us to become our own healer, to be your own. You are your own shaman or medicine man or medicine woman. And there's a big difference between giving our authority to, you know, or giving away our power to external authorities. You know, that's where you don't understand why you have the issue, the pain or the suffering that you're dealing with, or the ailment, and you go to somebody else. You go to a specialist, or you go to a doctor so that they can tell you. And in a way you take comfort in that. Well, this is an invitation to take up the challenge of being the magician, being the experimenter. You know, go into research, do Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. You know, he taught many of the great heroes, but he was actually wounded by his own student, which I believe was Hercules, who accidentally shot him in the leg. And being that he was, you know, a demigod, he could not die. So he had to live with the pain and suffering in his mortal body. And a centaur is the representation of the animal self and the human self, and the animal tendencies and instinctual tendencies within the human. So, you know, a lot of that has to do with, you know, it's an invitation to go into basically, you know, being your own healer, or at least diving into, you know, put in time and research into how you can heal yourself. And in a lot of ways, in that sense, you know, if you can go down that path, you, in a way at least, generate experiential wisdom, or you generate experience, and that experience becomes something that you own and you hold on to, versus giving your power away to an external authority. You know, we have to think about these external authorities having to do with, you know, healing or medicine are really actually practitioners. They are practicing medicine, they are practicing healing. In a way, when you kind of like take up that magic wand in your hand, as the magician does, you're essentially taking up that responsibility as well. So, you know, you're kind of taking that idea and working with it yourself. And nobody can really take away your experiences, your experiments, as you become the scientist, you become the doctor in that sense. You know, so what? So if you try something and it doesn't work, you know, so many times again and again, then you can always, as an option or a final option, then you can relate to an authority, and then you learn, and you learn there as well. So that's just kind of that idea that it is an invitation. And with the 13-day period of Monkey, as I was saying a second ago, art, music, anything that you can think of that relates to art, acting, you know, anything Venusian. These are all things that have to do with love, and they're very actually healing, and they're very social. The 13-day period of Monkey represents very social energy, a very artistic and playful energy. So, you know, it's that, once again, it's that transforming a poison into a medicine. That is something that very many times an artist of any modality will do. They will take something that is painful or suffering, or something that's a darkness of the world, and they will put it into a song, or they will put it into a painting. That's transforming a poison into a medicine. That's one of the ways. Chiron, you know, is currently in Aries, and Chiron is showing us the ability, well, Chiron is showing us either where we are unable to be independent, or where we lack courage. Chiron is also revealing one's lack of ability to initiate, or simply the ability to exist, our ability to hold a freedom for yourself as an individual, to simply exist autonomously without guilt and shame, to have that freedom to express oneself without guilt or shame. And, you know, in this process of Chiron going through Aries, Chiron's going to be there for quite a while. You know, that's going to be a long-term thing, but we want to talk about it right now, and we want to talk about it consistently. You know, it's Chiron is the energy that is making each one of us into a teacher or a healer around all of these topics. Chiron in the esoteric philosophy represents it's referred to as the Antakarana, the connecting bridge or link between the higher and the lower self. And it's also referred to as the Rainbow Bridge, which is also the connecting link between Saturn and Uranus. And Saturn is the past, Uranus is the future, Saturn is structure, Uranus is revolution of structure. It's the updating so that things don't become too rigid. So a lot of this is similar to the Magician. With all the arts, music, writing, and acting, it's the celebration that is so vital to us human beings as healing. And as you know, we've been sort of denied that in various different ways over the past year and a half. So it's kind of the idea of getting back to that. There's a healing right now of being able to go back, being open again, collectively. Individually is a different story. Those are opinions on where we should be, but collectively, it takes more time to get back to the point where we find new ways of going back to, entertainment, live music, and so forth. Because those things are very healing. A lot of times, I go to a lot of shows. I'm a musician myself, and a lot of times I've heard friends of mine or other people relate the idea that going to a show is it's like their version of like a religious experience for some people. It's their version of completely letting go, and it's that basically just goes back to that heart energy. A lot of times people use, in conjunction with going to shows, they use substances. But it's their way, it's a way for a lot of people to do that. But ultimately, the healing experience is the social experience in conjunction with the expression of the art. And so, that's something that's really important that needs to come back right now. So we're talking about all modalities of medicine and healing, and we're talking about the idea of time, as time is one of the key ingredients in most art forms. Some of the downsides to the 13-day period of Monkey would be, really strong egotism or posturing, being really rigid and fixed, and, it's the opposite of being fluid. And it can be very opinionated. So we kind of want to look at that and make sure that we're going the higher route. So I think, that's about it. I just wanted to do a quicker video for this one. It was basically around the idea of the Mayan 13-day period of Monkey and the solar eclipse coming up. So solar eclipse is basically new beginnings, new happenings. We're letting go of the past, going to the future. Anyway, my name's Billy. Much love to you. Bye-bye. Have a good one.